Everything you know about Egghead is a lie. Egghead was said to be the island of the future, but it's actually the island of the past. Egghead was said to have Dr. Vegapunk there, but there's actually 7 Dr. Vegapunks, and they're all trying to kill each other. We were supposed to have a chill arc after Wano, but now we're seeing all the absolute insanity of the world coming to a critical mass. CP0's here, an Admiral's here, a member of the Gorosei is named and here. So it's perfectly fitting that Oda turned the creativity notch up even further, with Vegapunk's island being a massive collage of colorful machinery and toy-like wonder. However, this wonder is cut short because of the reveal of holograms being a thing in the One Piece world. Through the use of holograms, Oda is able to draw literally anything, which is a really interesting parallel now that we know that Luffy is able to do literally anything. This connection to fantasy and fiction is pushed even further when Luffy, Jinbei, and Chopper meet Atlas, who comes to the story with an absolute banger of a quote. Debates on what makes something real are as old as time. It's something you'll have to decide for yourself, but I consider the matter settled. And this is a really powerful quote, but the second that Atlas introduces themselves as Dr. Vegapunk, Bonnie instantly thinks to herself how that's a total lie, planting the seeds of distrust already this early in the arc. And although Bonnie might not believe what Atlas is saying, I personally think this quote is the most important thing Luffy is going to learn throughout the arc. Let's think about what just happened at Lulusia in chapter 1060. With one quick attack, Imu eviscerated an island's worth of people in an attempt to erase them from history. But unfortunately for Imu, this is One Piece, a world that's so interconnected even though it seems like an island-hopping adventure. No man is an island. People will have their will inherited. Even though Lulusia is seemingly gone forever, it will never really be gone, because no one dies until they're forgotten. And all I'm going to say is if Moda the Milkmaid is dead, I'm not going to be happy. It would make the Revolutionary Army look like a bunch of jokers, because they were just recently on Lulusia, and now the entire island's gone. It seems like all the effort they put into inspiring these people to rise up against Imu would be for naught, and make them look like a complete joke in my opinion. That could even go further to show that Imu is that powerful, and I believe that in this arc we're going to figure out exactly what Uranus is, because firstly, I believe that Uranus is the thing that Imu used to destroy Lulusia, and secondly, I feel as though all the things connecting Egghead to the Ancient Kingdom will be explained through the reveal of what Uranus is, and it all has to do with the main aesthetic appearance of Egghead, which is obviously sci-fi, but the main reference throughout most of the entire island, video games. Oda has been teasing video game allusions for months now. While Usopp and Nami are playing the One Piece world's equivalent of Smash, we see Luffy in a very similar outfit to Ryu, but with his signature Gear 5 hairstyle. This immediately plants the seed of this color spread being important, since it was one of the most obvious examples of Gear 5 before Oda truly revealed Luffy's awakening to us. Let's look at the setting of Egghead. I remember specifically noticing the Mario question block in the first spread that showcased Vegapunk's lab, and more recently, there was a Game Boy Advance with the word Vega plastered across it, and Vegapunk and his 6 satellites could be a cheeky little reference to the original Mega Man, facing against Dr. Wily and his 6 robot masters. Right underneath Luffy is Zoro, donning Link's iconic tunic and hat. Is it possible that Oda was pulling inspiration from The Legend of Zelda at the time of drawing this color spread as well? The Legend of Zelda is undoubtedly one of the greatest video game franchises of all time. It's hard to come across a series that houses what many people consider to be the greatest game of all time. Zelda has 2 of these, Ocarina of Time, which released over 2 decades ago, and just recently with Breath of the Wild. The series is cross-generational, timeless, and continues to resonate with millions across the world, just like a certain manga we're all obsessed with, wouldn't you say? But why exactly Zelda? The main video game reference for the Egghead arc is The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. And it's not just because of the setting itself. This game and this arc are really similar, not just in setting, but in theme most importantly. So I'm going to do a comparison of the things in Link's Awakening to One Piece, and what I think could be inspired from Link's Awakening in the main One Piece narrative. And who knows? If Egghead is actually inspired by The Legend of Zelda, this can not only explain what I think Uranus will be, it will reinforce one of the greatest themes in the entire story, and maybe even reveal to us how the Ancient Kingdom was destroyed. As a basic starting point, Link and Luffy both wash ashore on this island that both coincidentally have massive eggs as the centerpiece for the island. Both the settings are really grand and bizarre, even in terms of what One Piece has to offer and what Zelda has to offer. Something I haven't really talked about is how Link's Awakening is also very self-referential to many other Nintendo games at the time. having stuff like chain chomps and goombas as major enemies in a Zelda game is not a thing. This decision makes you wonder if this is actually an intentional sort of in-joke or if there's something more to it. And clearly, there is something more to it, but we'll get into that later. But let's get to the goals of both of these arcs. The goal of Egghead right now is to get Dr. Vegapunk off of Egghead, to remove him from the egg. And the goal of Link's Awakening is to go inside of the egg and wake up this thing called the Windfish. Of course, there are some evil forces trying to make sure none of them can achieve their goals. Luffy has to deal with CP0, an Admiral, and one of the Gorosei, while Link has to deal with these forces called the Sirens, who are trying to ensure that the Windfish stays asleep inside of the egg. And it is an interesting connection that these villains are trying to force something to continuously stay asleep, which goes against the idea of One Piece and dreams being such an important factor of the story. But now, let's talk about what the Windfish actually is, or should I say, Uranus. Uranus is a sky whale. Now, before you completely lose all faith in this, I know what you'll be thinking. There's never been any sky whale in the entirety of the story. However, whales have consistently been the most important animals in the story, whether it be the greatness that is Laboon, Whitebeard's monster of a ship, the Moby Dick, or the whale tree in Zoe. It's obvious to tell that whales are associated with important things in the story. But let's break this down further. With Oda fully reconnecting Skypiea to the main narrative through the use of Gear 5, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if Uranus was based on an animal that we met in the Skypiea arc. And although there haven't been any sky whales, there have been sky fish and sky sharks. So we know that there is a possibility of animals being able to swim through the clouds. We also know that fish have a capability of flying in the One Piece world from Duval and the Flying Fish Riders, who make their entrance in the story right before the Sabadi Archipelago arc. And wouldn't you know it, Egghead is chock full of callbacks to that same arc. But in case you're still somehow not convinced on the idea of a sky whale, let's look at the first ever page of Egghead and Vegapunk's lab, and what do we see? A whale floating in the sky. Now, a major counter-argument could obviously be that people think Uranus is a ship. Emu could only be using a ship that looks like a straw hat, or the Arc Maxim, or maybe the hieroglyphics on the moon that Enel saw in his cover story. However, when we first enter the Grand Line, we meet a whale, Laboon. This whale is also a ship, with Crocus being inside of him to take care of him, having a sort of symbiotic relationship within one another. And we also see Whitebeard, at the midpoint of the story, have a ship that looks like a whale. The Arc Maxim didn't really do anything for Enel in particular. However, Enel was still able to rain down subjugation for all the people of Skypiea using deadly beams, which are incredibly similar to the attack that we saw on Lulusia. In Japanese culture, whales are oftentimes appreciated and awe-inspired for what they offer for a grand spectacle of a creature. However, the second that whales are seen as endangered or possibly away from their awe-inspiring status, they are basically immediately murdered, which reminds me a lot of what happened to Doflamingo and his family when they went down to the surface. If these whales are sort of deified in the One Piece world as well, is it possible that Emu could be using a whale as his grand weapon to subjugate others? But that raises the question, how exactly is this creature able to do a 16-pronged attack that allows it to completely wipe out islands? We just need to simply look at the creature and notice that on its fins, there are 8 distinctive bulges on each of them, meaning it has some capability of producing something with 16 distinctly similar attributes. Let's look back at the Skypiea arc again, specifically the beginning, and a character Oda dropped into the story, Willie Caring, with a very poignant quote, "Anything that man can imagine is a possibility in reality." Now, this obviously has connections to Luffy's power, which is first foreshadowed with the Sun God in Skypiea, but it's also a very interesting callback to what Atlas said at the beginning of Egghead, because anything you can imagine could become real if you just believe in it, like how Luffy does all the time. Plus, there's already been so many crazy animals in One Piece, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if a sky whale just so happened to exist. And this would lead to a great parallel forming between Luffy and Emu. Both of them have befriended whales, Luffy at the bottom of Reverse Mountain, and Emu at the top of Marie Joie. And ironically enough, both of these places are directly opposing each other on the world map. One's at the bottom of the world, and one's right at the top. One of the whales wants to destroy the Red Line, where it's very likely that Emu is using Uranus to ensure the Red Line can never be destroyed. With all of that stuff out of the way, and now that we're assuming Uranus is this sort of sky whale, why exactly am I saying that this is, without a doubt, 100% what I'm thinking, we're going to have to get into major spoiler territory for Link's Awakening. So if you have any interest in playing this game, do not watch the rest of this video because it will spoil a major plot point. Do you remember at the start of this video where I said everything on Egghead is a lie? Now take that concept and apply it to the greatest extreme possible, and then you got the plot of Link's Awakening. Everything on Koholint Island isn't real. That's the reason why the developers actually put in all the Nintendo references, just to give us the idea that this is so unbelievable that nothing in this game should be a real thing. And that's because none of it is a real thing. But when I say a real thing, I'm talking about the conventional meaning, not what Vegapunk thinks, where anything that someone can imagine can be a real thing, since it's anything anyone could imagine, so it's feasibly possible to exist. In this case, everything in Link's Awakening is a real thing because it is something he imagined, and that's because everything in Link's Awakening is a dream. And this dilemma has popped up in One Piece over and over again, but most recently with the reveal of God Valley being a thing. Many of the Marines who have never even heard of God Valley couldn't believe it was real. Sengoku had Mayor McCheese here just shook, but God Valley was a real thing. Just because people didn't know about it didn't mean it didn't happen. And the same thing could be said about the plight of the Ancient Kingdom and the world before the world government. Because of the Void Century erasing all that history, people might not know it even happened. But the Windfish literally even says, someday thou might recall this island, and that memory makes the dream world real. So many people didn't even believe what Sengoku was saying, but because Sengoku said it, it now exists in their minds. It's now an idea that they can picture and actually have a concept of. As we wake up the Windfish, we see this island, Koholint Island, with many characters and people that we've grown to love over this journey, vanish into this white void. All of it becomes something that we have to accept as something that isn't real. It's something we've experienced. It's characters we've grown to appreciate. The island we've spent all this time on. It's not real, yet it is real because it's something we've experienced and felt. Just like all the people in One Piece who have passed, or all the people in One Piece who have influenced others to continue inheriting their will, this place will live on. And just like Koholint, a land that supposedly never existed, Lulusia goes out in the exact same way, with a big blinding ball of light and the island dissipating right in front of our eyes. Uranus, or the Windfish, could be representative of the One Piece world itself. They were living a peaceful, beautiful dream until the nightmares took over. Imu destroying the world's peace and creating the world government, subjugating others and turning this world into a true dark age. The nightmares do the same to the Windfish, continually causing it to stay asleep and be under their subjugation as well. And the fight to wake up the Windfish isn't actually a fight with the Windfish's nightmares, it's actually your own nightmares. In this case, it would be Luffy's nightmares. There are many people who think Imu could be Umi or the Mother Sea. Now that we know that devil fruits are made in pure defiance of the Mother Sea, this could truly push the duality of Imu and Luffy. I really love this idea, but Oda's always been someone to use English in terms of characters, settings, locations, so I had another idea for what Imu could be. Imu wouldn't be I am you, it would literally mean I am you. I am you, the embodiment of your nightmares. I am the nightmare of the world, and Luffy, you are the dreamer. It's no wonder that Luffy's power has finally been revealed as imagination, the perfect thing to go up against a dictator who's been ruling the world, causing everyone to stop thinking about how hopeful the world could be, while Luffy, with his childlike mind and innocent nature, is able to truly see a world where everyone can truly be together. And this would even make Blackbeard a more interesting character. Blackbeard is nothing like Imu in this regard. If Imu is the subjugation of dreams and imagination, Blackbeard and Luffy are truly two sides of the same coin. Both of them still believe that dreams are the most powerful thing in the world, and that even though dreams aren't a real thing, and dreams aren't something that can tangibly be grasped, dreams never have to end. Dreams are real. Dreams are something that can affect others and the world itself if you believe hard enough, while Imu tries to subjugate these dreams from even taking hold because of how powerful they can be. But even though everything in Link's Awakening is a dream, and it isn't actually physical or tangible, Oda's been pushing in this very arc that dreams and memories do have weight to them, and mean a lot to a lot of people. Uranus is a sky whale because of the game. Imu's this monster, nightmare embodiment because of the game. But there's one last thing I haven't even mentioned yet. The first thing that Link remembers when he wakes up is the song that he played to wake up the Windfish. And do you know what the Windfish actually calls the song? The Song of Awakening. You could say Luffy's Drums of Liberation are the lead instrument in the song of his and the world's awakening, but Link plays 8 distinct instruments when awakening the Windfish. Is this 8 connective tissue going to play out to this theory that many of the kingdoms of the past were in an alliance with the Ancient Kingdom and Joy Boy? But that's a theory. That's not concrete evidence that this number 8 is important. But we already know that the number 8 is important in the present time in the One Piece world because of the 8 nation revolution that Sabo has spurred on. This makes me think that this 8 connected kingdoms in the past has to be something important if this 8 connected kingdoms in the present is something right now. And although the Drums of Liberation is the obvious choice for this song, I think another song that's very, very popular in the One Piece world could be the Song of Awakening, that is representative of what the Ancient Kingdom left behind, what this world of dreams had before the world of nightmares took over. We already know this song, very well in fact, and many characters throughout many generations of the One Piece world know the song as well. I'm talking about Binks Sake. Binks Sake is one of, if not the most iconic song to come out of One Piece because of all the ways it's able to bring people together. And since this is a song we know that pirates have sung for generations and generations, meaning it's more than just the poneglyphs that they were able to leave behind, it was the song that brought them together, that brought together the dreams, the joy, the happiness of all the people who lived in this past world. And it's very fitting that when Roger finally found the One Piece, this song was playing in the background, as well as them singing this song the entire time they traveled across the world. I truly feel like there is a connection here between Binks Sake, the Ancient Kingdom, and the truth of the Void Century. Roger even decided to name the island Laugh Tale, and one of the lines in Binks Sake talks about how the journey will be a funny story, or a laugh tale. And if all this stuff is truly connected to Link's Awakening, and that's the inspiration for a lot of the stuff that's happening with the Ancient Kingdom and Imu, how fitting is it that Roger had an egg on his ship that looks really similar to the egg on top of Koholint Island that housed the Windfish? Uranus is a sky whale used by Imu, the embodiment of nightmares, to block out the sun and the hope of the world's future, in order to ensure that the world lives in the blackness and darkness of nightmares and subjugation. However, the dream of living in the sun together will be something that lasts in the hearts of everyone in the One Piece world, but we just need one hero to try and figure out the truth of what happened in the past. This is why I think Link's Awakening will lead to the truth of the Ancient Kingdom being revealed, so Link's Awakening will lead to what I consider Binks' Awakening and the dawn of the One Piece world. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.